All right, so this Knife Thoughts video is going to be on my mini everyday carry kit and why I chose these particular tools, and also why this is about as small as I think I can go for a full EDC kit. So first of all, let's talk about what everyday carry is. Everyday carry is a term that's become pretty popular, and originally, from what I can gather, it was meant more literally than I think it's taken now. When you said what your EDC was, it meant what you literally carry every day. Now, often it's become a thing that people say, this is my EDC for today, right? So, for example, you might be carrying a particular knife on that day that you don't carry literally every day, but that's what you consider your EDC for that day. So it's come to mean something a little bit different. Maybe your carry, your use knife or tool or flashlight or pen or whatever for that day. But in this video, these tools and this kit is something that I carry very nearly to every day as a backup kind of mini full everyday carry kit. And so there's kind of an agreed upon several categories of things that people typically carry in their everyday carry. Now, the first of those, and what I am most interested in, especially you probably know that if you watch this channel, is a knife. So there's all kinds of different knives that you might carry, and many of you probably recognize this one, but we'll talk about that later. And then another is a flashlight or torch. I use flashlights. It's not something I use as often as a knife, but definitely a good thing to have with you, especially if you need one. Don't have it, you know that you'll wish you had one. And then a pen or some sort of writing instrument. And then finally, some kind of way to make fire. Now, this is by far my least used, but I think it's good to have, and again, a quote-unquote full EDC kit. I'm sure some people would disagree whether this is a full kit or not, but for me, I think this covers the bases. And those are the main categories. So a knife, a light, a pen or writing instrument, and some way to make fire. And people go, super in depth. They get, a whole lot of things. Sometimes people use a particular pouch for their carry, and I do also have a pouch EDC that I keep on my backpack. This is really as small as it goes for me. Now, some people go even smaller, like something like this. I actually carry, I just added this on, but I carry these every single day, and they are the Olight I1R2S EOS. Very small, very easy to use little flashlight, and then a Spyderco Ladybug. And those are really sufficient for most of my, and then this is it's not really, but it's a Sharpie Mini. Those are sufficient, probably would be sufficient for most EDC uses. Most cutting tasks that you would do, this 1.5 inch blade would do it. You can cut cardboard with this, cut, tags off and, strings and things like that. And this light, doesn't put out a whole lot of light, but certainly enough to see and walk around in the dark and, walk your dog and everything like that. But and I'm assuming you, if you're watching this video, don't want to just have sufficient, right? I enjoy these tools for themselves, for having a good tool, and I want to have ones that are not just sufficient, but will be enjoyable to use, fit the kind of form that I'm looking for, and work better than I need them to. And so this is, again, as small as it gets for me with that. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So first of all here, this is the Victorinox Huntsman. And to be honest with you, the reason I landed on this one is because I needed a Swiss Army knife. I needed a knife right away for some reason. I don't even remember why, but I didn't have one, and these were available at Target. So I got one of these. But it is a pretty full knife. It has a full-size blade which, you know, will do most of your cutting tasks. A smaller blade for some finer work. It has a saw, which works really well. You can see it's has some from a tree on there, I think. And then we've got scissors, pretty useful. You know, something you use, especially for me when I'm like cutting out packing slips. And then a bottle opener, screwdriver, and pry bar, or at least that's how I use it, and wire stripper. And then a can opener and smaller screwdriver. Has tweezers and a toothpick, a wine opener, and then the enigmatic hook. Nobody ever can figure out exactly what those are for, but I've used it to carry things. And then finally, an awl. So you get a really good number of tools in a small size here. Now, one thing a lot of people do like to have that isn't on this is pliers. I just really don't use pliers that often. I do have a mini Leatherman tool in my pouch EDC that I talked about that I keep on my bag, but this does pretty much everything I need. And I think that you really get a good number of tools in this Victorinox Huntsman, and they're made really well. Victorinox just does an incredible job. They're really, really consistent. They last forever. They're really solid. They're super easy to sharpen because they're not that hard of steel. But I have really enjoyed this, and I think it covers pretty much everything that I need, and I enjoy the quality of it also. Moving on to the flashlight here. This is the Rovivon Aurora A3. Now, this flashlight is unbelievably bright for its size. When I got this, I was really kind of blown away. It was the first really small flashlight that I got that was anywhere near this bright. So I really like that. I do like the user interface too. It's easy to keep from accidentally turning it on, which can be a problem with these really bright lights. And I do like that it comes with a little clip, but I have carried it on my keychain also. Now, the big downside to this, and actually the reason that it is on this mini EDC kit instead of on my keychain, is because of the charging port. Now, I know everybody seems to like these, and you know, every flashlight seems to have them, but for me, these charging ports really ruin a light. They make it not waterproof. And the reason for that is because they always wear out super quickly if you actually use and carry a flashlight. This one wore out in weeks, maybe a month, something like that, really, really quickly, to the point where it'll fall out on its own if I kept this on my keychain. And, you know, especially because, you know, as maybe gross as some people might think it is, sometimes, you know, you hold a flashlight in your mouth when you're using it, right? If you need both hands. There's going to be, you know, some moisture get in there from that, or from just being on your keys if it rains, something like that. And so I like this for this mini EDC kit, not as so much for on my keychain. The reason for that is because this mini EDC kit is really a backup. You know, I typically have a more full-size flashlight with me, or even the one on my keychain. And this is something that I have, you know, as a whole mini kit in case I forget or lose or something like that, my normal flashlight. So that's the Rovivon Aurora A3. And then I think a lot of you will probably recognize this. This has been a companion of mine for years. This is a Fisher Space Pen, bullet space pen. And you can see that the clip is bent because, you know, it's caught on something. But I have carried and used this pen in different forms for a long time, over 5 years, I think. And it wears well, it uses well, you know, it never doesn't write in my experience. And I know some people say otherwise, but for me, I've been really impressed with how long these cartridges write. So I guess your mileage may vary, but for me, the thing I like about it is you do get a pretty full-size pen when it's open. And that's as compared to, you know, something like this, where it's really not full-sized on these keychain pens. So I've used this a lot, and I really like it. And again, they write really consistently, and in my experience, really long too. So really big fan of this, no complaints really. And then finally, just a plain Bic lighter. Now, this is definitely not a product placement for GetGo. The reason I have the GetGo one is because it's this weird size between the full-size lighters and the mini ones. I haven't seen it anywhere other than GetGo, but I assume that, you know, they don't only make them for GetGo. But it's really a nice size. The full-size ones to me are overly thick, and the mini ones are just so many that it's kind of ridiculous. But this one also just fits really well in how I carry this. So that's moving on to EDC carry. So the thing with carrying all these tools with you, having them all with you, is that it has to be not a huge hassle for carrying them. If it's a bother carrying them, then you're not going to, right? And so you have to find a way to do that. For a lot of tools, it's pocket clips, right? Pocket clip, pocket clip. And for full-size tools especially, I think that's most often the way that they're carried. But for a small kit like this, I like to have it in some kind of pouch. So this actually came with the Victorinox Huntsman. And what I do, it actually fits all of this stuff in here. I put this in like so. Then the lighter on one side. Then the pen on the inside, on the other side. And then this usually goes on the outside here. And that's just because it stays on a little easier. It is a little thicker, so it doesn't really fit inside. And I can snap it closed and it's good to go. And you've got a pretty solid little EDC kit there. You know, you've got your knife, you've got your light, you've got your writing instrument and your fire making instrument. And not only that, but it comes with a clip. Now, one thing, I actually thought that I had lost this for a while because it came off of, I carry it on, there's some like Molly, I think, type straps on my backpack that I use for work. And it slipped off, but it was actually just setting at work under the desk. So I was happy to have found it. So not perfect, you know, it could be a little bit better retention there, but it is nice to have that. Say if you were going out the door in the morning, didn't have time at all to, you know, pick out your flashlight, knife, pen, all that stuff, and you just wanted to grab something, you could just grab this as a whole kit, you know, put it on your belt or on your pocket, and maybe not worry about looking a little bit, you know, ridiculous with this whole big pouch sticking off of your belt, and you'd be good to go. So this is pretty much as small as I can go for a full, you know, EDC kit that I feel happy with, not just from a, you know, practical standpoint, but also from the standpoint of an enthusiast, of an EDC and particularly knife enthusiast, someone who enjoys them not just for their function, but also for their form and history and everything like that. So this is something where you could definitely replicate this. I'll put links to these, you know, items in my description. And if it works for you, I'm happy to have helped. If not, I'd love to hear about your, you know, mini EDCs. So make sure you leave a comment. Also, as always, make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. You can subscribe to my channel and click the bell so you get notified when I post new videos. Check out my social media on Instagram, Facebook at Knife Thoughts, and my website, knifethoughts.com. And as always, last but not least, don't forget to go out and do good.